Hello!
Hello AOS fans!
It's the Agents of Weird Hollow.
So in this video we're trying something a little different. You may have noticed if you're a regular viewer that Pete's dice are absolutely terrible and that I can roll double crits. Almost like I've got crits on every single side of my dice.
You've got a bad case of the crits.
Yeah, exactly. So we thought we'd mix it up. We talked about doing this and we did eventually do it.
Yep.
And it was actually a little while ago, so pre-Weird Hollows. There's a couple of Narwood, in the Narwood era. And so we replaced the dice with cards. Yep. And how did that work, Pete?
So we have 36 cards, and each card has 3 symbols on it. As you can see, I'm just flashing them up on the screen now, and they'll have all the symbols that you have on the dice, and it's effectively 6 dice worth of sides. So you're going to get every side of every dice once on every card, effectively. So you're going to have, there'll be 6 attack crits in there, there'll be 6 defense crits in there, there'll be 6 magical crits in there, there'll be 12 hammers, 12 shields, and so on. It's worth pointing out right now, after playing this game, we already realised a few mistakes that we would possibly tweak if we did this again. But the idea is you have that deck of cards to start with.
Yes, because depending on how you combine the faces on the cards, you can change the distribution of what you're playing. So but this was our first pass. It
was, yeah.
And actually, as you'll see, it was pretty successful and ended up with a very good game.
Yeah.
So the way it works is you have a hand. You start off and you draw 6 dice cards on top of all your other cards, and then when you need to roll a dice, you play the relevant number of cards to play.
Yeah. So if you're going to make an attack, or even at the start, if you're doing your roll off to see who picks the boards or whatever, you would pick 4 cards out then or whatever. But if you're going to make an attack with 3 cards and your opponent has a 1 defense, they would draw 1 card, and then you show them at the same time because obviously you don't want to give away anything, and then you work out who won.
Yes, so it's very exciting.
It is.
If you run out of cards, so supposing you need to make a 3 dice attack and you've only got 2 cards left, then you play your 2 cards and then you draw 6 new ones, and then you can play 1 card from those 6 that you drew.
Yep. So you can get a bit of shenanigans going where you're like, well, I could do this 2 dice attack, but I only have 2 cards. I don't have any crits in my hand, but if I play this 3 dice attack instead, I could draw another 6 cards.
Yeah, it does actually make you think a little bit about what you're doing and change which attacks you use and things, as you'll see probably as we go through the video.
So in this game, I'm playing Velmorn with the Tooth and Claw deck.
And I'm playing the classic Iron Skulls BOYZ. Why did you pick Velmorn, Pete?
We haven't played very many games of them after they first came out, when the box came out, and I feel like they'd been a little bit abused and hadn't had their time to shine as yet. And I also figured that as they rely on crits, and I can hopefully determine when those crits are going to land, I'll be able to get more inspirations out, I'll be able to take advantage of that.
So you were trying to basically use the reliability of a cast to make you inspire more carefully. I actually chose Gurzags for a very similar reason. They've got a lot of cards where you can do quite cool things if you get a crit or a hammer or something like that. There's a killable which you can basically stop Gurzag dying. There's one where you can get an extra attack if you get the right dice roll. So I thought, well, I'm in control of that, so I'm going to put those. I'm going to play them. So
we're both playing Tooth and Claw because they're nice, straightforward decks. Both warbands, I think, are quite nice and straightforward warbands as well. So let's get on with it. Yes,
run in, charge, smash, hopefully kill.
Yep. So let's get on with the game. So I won the initial roll off, and I picked the boards first, and Robin placed them.
Yeah, we decided to just use dice rather than, because we didn't quite know what we were doing at this point with the cards. We just used dice to do the roll off rather than getting rid of 4 cards straight away.
Robin then won and made me set up models first. He also won and chose to make me go first as well. We'll just run into our cards now. I had to redraw all my objectives and power cards, which isn't necessarily a good sign.
No, I only redrew my power cards.
The cards I ended up with was toyed with a surge card where I score immediately after a friendly fighter's attack if 1 or more enemy fighters are vulnerable. Not necessarily easy to do with the orcs because they've got a lot more wounds. Paragon of Ferocity, which is another surge, but this is a hybrid, which I score immediately after a savage friendly fighter's attack that takes the target out of action. Again, not necessarily easy on its own, and the friendly fighter has to be in enemy territory or the target was an enemy leader. Well, I don't think I'm going to take Gurzag out anytime soon, so that's another surge that's not necessarily very easy for me to score right now. And the last one was Mauled, another surge card, but this one is score immediately after a friendly fighter's attack action that took the target out of action if the friendly fighter was supported by 1 or more savage fighters. Got 3 surge cards and none of them look particularly easy right now.
No, some of those Tooth and Claw surge cards can be a little tricky, and I suppose that's good design. It's not gone are the days where you can just get 3 cards that you can score straight off without doing very much.
Exactly. For my power cards, I had 3 Gambits, which is good. Internal Surrender, which gives +1 dice to one of my fighters, but -1 defense. Well, I only roll 1 for most parts anyway, so that's all right. The Shaishin Infusion, which will heal one of my Graveguard too, which is always nice. dice, and Decapitating Blow, which is a very useful card here because I can place during a friendly fighter's attack action after the declare action step. The attack has cleave, and if that attack resulted in a crit, which I can hopefully determine when that'll happen, and it takes the target out of action, I gain 1 spent glory. I've also got Proud Son, which enables me to reroll 1 attack dice in the attack rolls for this fighter's range 1 attacks, and Stubborn to the Bone, which means I cannot be pushed, and in addition, when he's savage, I can reroll 1 defense dice.
So rerolling is potentially quite good. It means you can either get through your deck faster and draw into new cards, or it means you can draw into you can use new cards you've just drawn into and re-roll it if you want to.
Yep.
So my draw was really quite lucky. I ended up with 4 ploys. I got the excellent Determined Brutality, which enables me to pick Cleave or Ensnare. I've got Gurzag's Unkillable, which I'm really pleased about because that's going to come out and go on at the earliest opportunity. Internal Surrender, which Peter had, +1 dice, and reduces my defense dice to a minimum of 1, but that's fine because they only ever have 1. Leading by Example, play this after an attack action made by your leader takes an enemy fighter out of action. Another friendly fighter that has not already made a charge action can make a charge action. Really quite a strong card, especially with the new rules, meaning that isn't necessarily the end of them.
Yep.
They might still be able to activate. And of course, I can control when my leader can take somebody out of action with the cards. And more chopping, basically roll an extra dice, or in this case, use an extra card for the first attack action in the next activation. Objective-wise, I've got 2 Dumb to Die, which is quite a nice card for the Orcs. I think they often score it. Score this immediately if a friendly fighter suffers 3 or more damage in a single attack and is not taken out of action. Call of the War, score this immediately if 3 or more of my fighters have made a charge action, when I'd be definitely trying to do that.
With leading by example as well, that definitely helps you.
Yep, and this comes along very nicely with Move or Die, where I have to have each surviving friendly fighter has to have a move or charge token, so they kind of all dovetail nicely together there.
So in the setup, Robin has set up about as far forward as you can get, possibly.
Yeah, absolutely, I wasn't allowed to set up on Pete's board, apparently.
And I have set up pretty close as well. All of my main chafe fighters are near the front, and I've got the big guy and my boss a little further back, just so I can time when I want to attack with them. Robin made me go first, so on my first turn I charge with Martial Falk at Basher. I play a 1 sword and 1 single assist card.
And I deflected it with a shield.
Ping! I then push Basher back 1 space.
And I played Internal Surrender onto Gurzag. This is a good person to have Internal Surrender on.
Yeah.
In my next activation, I charge with Basher into Helmar the Hewer.
I had no successes to play at this point, annoyingly.
But neither did I.
Sneaky shenanigans. Onto my second activation, I charge with Thane 4th and last. I play 2 hammers, but I do need swords for this attack.
I played a shield expecting something from you, but didn't get it. So defended it nicely.
Despite not having any good cards right now, at least I know I've got some good cards coming at some point in that other 30 deck.
You've got to draw some good dice.
At some point they've got to come out, right?
I've kept all these crits.
Oh.
I play more chopping to play an extra dice for my next attack.
Oh dear.
And now the big man comes into action. Charging with Gurzag. Pete puts a shield down.
Bing!
And I get hammer crit. I was expecting something from Pete, but there's my first crit.
The hammer crit comes out.
3 damage, and Martial Falk is dead. And the score is now 1-0 to me.
Boo.
I then play Leading by Example
and
charge straight away with Bone Cutter.
It's just not nice.
Thane 4th and last.
I do play a double assist at this point.
And I get a hammer with a single assist, causing 2 wounds, but I don't push him back. And then immediately score Call of the War, because I've charged with 3 people already. And I've drawn into Ferocious Rampage. I then play Unkillable on Gurzag with my Glory, which basically is almost certainly going to be a guaranteed success.
Yeah, you know you've got to roll a shield. You're just going to keep hold of one of those shields whenever you think he's in trouble.
Exactly, and it's got kind of that really must put you off attacking him.
Really does. I then play the Shaishin Infusion to heal Thane back up to full wounds again. On my third go, I attack Basher with Thane, the newly healed, and I play a single assist and a sword for 2 successes.
I just had a single assist.
So I cause 2 damage and push Basher back.
For my third, and I feel like I've already had hundreds of activations already, but for my third, I charge with Hacker into Thane.
Thane again. I play a dodge.
And I get another hammer crit.
It's just the luck of his dice again.
Yeah. After I hit, I do 1 damage, but I don't push you back.
I then play Internal Surrender on Kin Morlach, which is good because it gives him the extra dice, but it does give him -1 defense. And he's my only 2 defense dice fighter.
King Morlock.
Now, he's now rolling 3 dice, but I only have 2 in my hand. So when my next attack comes, I'll be able to play both of those. Maybe I can start fishing for some crits, because I haven't had one yet. So on my 4th go, I do charge with Morlock. With only 2 cards in my hand, I place both of those, but as he's rolling 3 due to that upgrade, I then fish another 6 cards out, bearing in mind I haven't drawn a crit as yet. I then play Decapitating Blow.
And I play a double assist.
I then play my useless swords cards because I do need a hammer, but I do get a crit.
Oh.
Finally got a crit out, which means I do 3 damage because he has Grievous, and that kills poor old Basher dead.
Basher's dead.
That does net me 2 glory though. 1 of those is spent due to Decapitating Blow, making the score 2-all, and inspires both the King and Helmor because they were assisting and there was crits and all that kind of good stuff.
Oh, lots of synergy there. And so it really helps you there. It's an example where it really helped you because you were able to get the support in and know you were going to get the crit. It's worse.
Well, I knew I could fish for the crit at least.
So yes, that's true. That's true. You didn't know actually.
But
it's an example of where it's useful because you can set it up, whereas it can be dangerous to set it up in a normal dice game.
Yes, because with this upgrade, I have now reduced his defense to 1 shield, so he's more vulnerable than he was. So there is the trade-off there. I knew what I was getting into when I started, though.
So for my final go, I attack with Bone Cutter on Thane, 4th and last again.
I get a crit this time.
But I played crit success.
Oh.
And I killed Thane. Thane is slain.
Thane hath been slain.
Yeah.
And that makes it 3-2.
3-2 to me.
In the end phase, I've scored nothing. I get rid of Paragon of Frosty and Maud because I just don't think I'm going to be able to score either of those cards. And I also dump Proud Sons and redraw 2 objectives and 5 of my power cards.
I score move or die because I did move or die and die in some cases.
Move and die.
And it goes up to 4-2. I keep my other 2 objectives and I draw 1 objective and 5 power cards. Okay, so my objectives, I've still got 2 done to die. Didn't score that last time because you killed Basher outright with a 3 dice attack, or 3 damage attack. Ferocious Rampage, score this in end phase if each surviving friendly fighter is Savage and or inspired. I kind of feel like I should be able to score this.
You hope so.
But although there has to be no fighters holding objectives, so that you might mess me up, but you don't look like you're going to be trying to hold anything.
Not yet, anyway.
And I've got biggest and the best. Score this in end phase if your leader took an enemy fighter out of action. In the preceding action phase, well, Gerzak can normally be relied on to do that. The power card wise, I've got 3 upgrades now and 2 ploys. So my ploys, I've got Last Lunge. Again, it's a great card playing in the card dice way because it played this doing an attack action that will take a friendly fighter out of action before moving on the battlefield, roll an attack dice, a hammer or a crit. You can make an attack action with them.
Yep, it's a nice little FU just to get back at someone.
Absolutely. Dark Command can choose 1 beast or 1 savage fighter and deal 1 damage to 1 enemy fighter adjacent to that chosen fighter.
Always
Again,
nice.
A dirty card.
It is a dirty card.
Yeah. Upgrade wise, I've got War, which is range 1 attacks get +1 damage during a charge action. Arded for Hacker and Basher, which reduces their damage to by 1 to a minimum of 1, and Feral Instincts makes them a beast and gives them +1 damage to their range 1 attack actions. But they must make an attack action if they can. Otherwise, they must make a charge if they can. Otherwise, they have to make a move to end closer to the nearest enemy fighter. I've actually gone off this card since we played this game. I tend to drop it now when I've been playing Tooth and Claw.
It can be real tricky to put that on someone and realise actually you can't now charge them like you planned. Yeah. They've got to make an attack that you didn't actually want instead.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Especially if you put it on a fight who's got a ranged attack, because then you can nearly always attack someone rather than making that charge that you so desperately want.
Yeah, so I've shied away from that card these days.
For me, I've now picked up Move or Die, which I'm hoping I should be able to score this time because I'm probably going to have a lot less models on the board. I've also got a Surge card of Clinical Efficiency, which I score immediately after a friendly fighter's attack that took the target out if the attack action dealt precisely enough damage to take the target out of action or the attack resulted in a crit. Well,
another great card.
Hopefully I can manufacture the crit on that format. One. And then I have Toyed With, which is basically after one of my attacks, 1 or more enemy fighters are vulnerable, which hopefully I can set up as well. But I might accidentally help you score 2 dumb to die at the same time if I do that.
Yeah.
For my power cards, I only have 2 gambits this time. Father's Pride, which I play after a friendly fighter's successful attack. I can give my leader a command counter and push them 1 hex. I've got Favoured Son, which is +1 defense if my leader is alive. Determined Brutality, which gives somebody either cleave or ensnare on my next attack. Gifted Vitality, which I can't give to a large fighter, so I can't give it to my big boy. But at the end of the action phase, I can heal one of this fighter. It's also a reaction, so if I kill one of your guys, I can just give it to one of my fighters without paying the glory. And Heirloom Weapon, which is +1 damage to this fighter's range 1 and 2 attacks, which is nice on whoever it goes on, but it does have to go on a Graveguard.
So nicer than the Feral Instincts.
Yes. So it's time for our roll-off, in air quotes, as it were.
It's more of a slapdown than a roll-off.
It is, yeah, exactly.
I had 3 cards in hand, so I played those and drew another 6 and played a 4th.
I then played my remaining 4 that I had in my hand.
And amazingly, we both had 2 doubles.
Oh, it just shows no one cares about doubles. They keep until the end. We both draw another 4, and this time I get a crit and a double.
To my single double.
So I win the first activation. I didn't go first.
Did blow a crit on it though.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, do you go with it sometimes? Sometimes you have to. If you've only got 4 cards left, you're going to have to blow that crit. So my first activation, I charge with Velmorn into Hacker. I play 2 cards and I redraw for another 6 to get my 3rd card. And out of that, I play a crit and 2 hammers.
I play nothing.
I realised afterwards that you could only put 1 defence card down, so I only need 1 crit and 1 hammer to guarantee a hit. But I put 2 hammers down, so I managed to throw away cards that I didn't need to use. Fantastic. That then makes this a grievous attack and does 4 damage.
Ow!
Hacker is killed, and I score clinical efficiency, making it 4 all.
Ow, 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 ow.
I also then play Gifted Vitality onto King Velmorn himself. I then also play Favoured Son onto Helmor the Hewer to try and give him a little bit more defensive capabilities.
And I did play Feral Instincts onto Bonecutter. So I do jump straight in, but I can't charge straight in with Bonecutter, and I make an attack. But I stagger him first, so to make him savage.
Yep.
I do want him savage. And I'm going up against King Velmorn. Pete played a shield, but I had double crit.
Double crit. It's another situation where you only needed 1 crit and a success, but you played double crit just to rub it in my face.
Yes, I hadn't really thought about that. I think I perhaps forgot to you because Velmorn is on 2. But,
yeah, normally. But
you had. I maybe have forgotten. I then played Dark Command and killed King Velmorn.
There's nothing worse than people doing that.
So that vital stagger.
Yeah, and my me putting that card on to heal him at the beginning of a round, completely useless in this situation.
So I go up to 5-4.
And then I played the Heirloom Weapon onto Helmar the Hewer, ready to start doing some damage.
And you charge straight in.
I do. I charge Bonecutter with Helmor. I get a crit success. I then use the reroll that he has to get rid of one of my cards and then draw into another 6.
I get nothing.
So I then succeed, do 3 damage and push you back and inspire.
Wow. And I scored 2 dumb to die and inspired as well. And you scored toyed with.
I did, because you only have 1 wound left.
Yeah.
I draw Vying for Favour, and the score is now 6-5 to you.
I forgot to show what I drew from my 2 dumb to die, so we'll never know.
I then realise that I'm down to my last 6 cards, so I now, at this point in the game, when you have 6 cards left, you have to shuffle everything back in. So there's still an element of randomness in there. You're not going to, if you fail to draw any crits throughout the whole game, you know that 6 are in that bottom there.
They're lost.
You're just going to have to shuffle it back in at this point. So it's still not completely predictable, but it's also not completely random. But I feel like this, hopefully, is giving a slightly more even keel of things so far.
For my round 2, I charge with Bonecutter now. I use my last 2 cards and then I redraw and I get 2 hammers.
I had nothing, so I just played a double assist and I fail.
So Helmor is dead.
7-5, you start to pull away. Things are starting to look a little bit more dicey for me, or not.
Cardy.
I then, for my 3rd activation, just move Sir Jedran. I'm careful to keep out of the reach of the Zag at this point because I'm aware he hasn't charged yet and he could get into me if I'm not careful.
Now I draw a card looking for +1 move.
And evidently not getting it, but we never found out what you drew at that point. I then, on my 4th go, move Sir Jedran again. As he can't charge now, he has a move counter on him. So I just move him up next to Bonecutter, because Bonecutter can't hit me either, because he's charged and Gerzag hasn't.
Yes. So I move up the Zag after staggering him to make him savage. And I didn't get a +1 move card.
Good for me in this situation.
On round 4.
So I score Vying for Favour and Move or Die, both of which require all your surviving fighters, in my case just 2, to have move tokens on them. So I score both of those to 7 all. I then keep my last objective and draw 2 and 5 power cards.
But I scored Ferocious Rampage, taking it back up to 9-7. I get rid of Punch Up and Biggest and the Best to draw 3 new objectives and 2 new power cards.
So into the third round, I've drawn a Regal Riposte, which is a Surge hybrid I score immediately after a friendly fighter's attack takes an enemy fighter out of action if the friendly fighter has no charge tokens or the enemy fighter has one or more charge tokens. Well, I'm standing right next to Bone Cutter with Sir Jedron. Maybe I can take him out. I've also got Inevitability itself, which I score if there are one or fewer surviving enemy fighters and there are 2 or more surviving friendly fighters. That's 3 glory, so that could be a decider. And the last one is Dispassionate Slaughter. I score in an end phase if there are more enemy fighters out of action than there are surviving enemy fighters. But at the minute you've got 2 dead and 2 alive, so if I can kill one more person, that's another 2 glory for me. For my gambits, I've got 3 power cards. Determined Brutality I've kept hold of for Cleave or Ensnare on my next attack. Savage Season, which heals all of my fighters 1 and staggers the chosen fighters that I heal. And Dark Commands for that 1 damage annoyance. I then also have Fearless Lunge, which gives me a range 2 hammer, 2 damage attack, which I can reroll any number of dice in the attack roll, but staggers me, which could be fairly useful. And Proud Son, which can only go on a Graveguard, and I can reroll 1 attack dice in the attack rolls for this fighter's range 1 attacks.
For objectives, I've got Focal Point. Score this in end phase if a friendly leader is within 2 hexes of 2 or more fighters from 2 or more warbands. I'm not sure there's going to be enough fighters left at the end of this round to score this. Toy with, score this immediately with a friendly fighter attack action if 1 or more enemy fighters are vulnerable. That's possible, although there's also, I'd probably be hoping just to take you out in 1 hit.
Yeah.
And Embraced Savagery, score this immediately after an activation if each surviving friendly fighter is savage.
I mean, that should be pretty easy considering how few fighters there are knocking around now.
Yeah, absolutely. Power cards, I've got Mark of the Stampede. This that +1 move card I was vying for earlier, I've now got it. Last Lunge. Again, very handy because it involves rolling a hammer or a crit to make an attack action if a fighter is being taken out of action. Stubborn to the Bone. Enemy warbands cannot push this fighter. In addition, while this fighter is savage, you can reroll 1 dice in this fighter's defense rolls. I've got War, which gives +1 damage when they make a charge action. I've kept hold of that. Gifted Frosty, +1 dice to range 1 attack actions. Pretty good card for the Orcs because they've only got range 1 attack actions. I played 2 singles and a double.
And I only played 2 singles, which means you win.
I did. I'm going to attack with Bone Cutter.
Yeah, we got it really. I'm standing right there.
4 damage.
It could be painful. I have a single card left that's absolutely no use whatsoever.
And I have a crit success.
Oh, but you didn't push me back.
I don't push you back, which I think was a bit of a fatal mistake in the end, and we're about to find out, but I do score Toyed with to go straight up to 10-7.
Bam. In the power step, I play Dark Commands to kill Bone Cutter. Oh. Just got to be done. That makes it 10-8.
Yeah.
I then play Determined Brutality to give myself Cleave.
Ooh, ouch, 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 ouch.
On my first activation, I charge with Sir Jedron into the Zag. I get 1 success.
And I have none, so Zag takes 3 damage.
Bam! And then I push you back to make sure that if you want to have a go at me, you're going to have to charge.
Yeah, but I do score Embrace Savagery due to the damage.
Yeah, so now it's 11-8.
Right, now, I feel like I was done here. Obviously, in this game, we're trying to look at how the cards work. My absolute best option was just to run away.
Because you're already in the lead, it's like 11-8.
Yeah, you can't get to me.
No, I've already charged.
Yeah. I haven't got very good cards in my hand, actually.
No.
For dice, as we'll see. And but I think, well, we both got range 1 attacks, so it'll be all right. Let's keep going. We'll demonstrate how it goes. So bear in mind, I would have run away if it had been if we'd been in the final of the Grand Clash. I would have run away at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be worth remembering
what
when you're at the
follows
final.
is quite impressive. So I played Gifted Ferocity on Gerzag for +1 dice and War for +1 damage. Yeah, just in case.
You can never be too careful in these kind of situations.
Exactly, and I do charge because, you know, it's a fun game. It's meant to be about charging.
Exactly.
And I get 1 hammer.
But I get a crit.
It's got a sneaky crit.
I had a sneaky crit up my sleeve all along.
And then I realised that I had actually had +2 +1 dice. I had +2 dice cards, so I needed to get rid of a couple more cards. So I get rid of another hammer and single assists. But I had no crits, so otherwise I definitely would have played it.
Yeah. So at this point, I then play Fearless Lunge.
And I accuse you of cheating at this point because you persuaded me that I should definitely charge. And then you had this card to enable you to hit me from two things away.
I can see why you might think that.
Yeah.
I honestly, at the time, had completely forgotten I had that card in my hand. A hand on heart. Wasn't trying to steer you wrong, but yeah, that's the way it's gone. So on to my second activation, I then slap Gerzag with Jedron. So we both get a single success, and I decide to push you away so you can no longer hit me back now.
Yeah, because I, for some reason, haven't put Stubborn to the Bone on him.
Oh, yeah.
Which would have stopped you from doing that.
It would have stopped me from being able to push you entirely. Yeah, that would have completely done me over.
Yeah.
So on to your third activation.
I just draw a card.
I can't do anything else at this point.
Yeah.
On my third go, I decide to use my lunge attack again on the Zag, and I have 1 card to play, and then I draw another 6.
And Pete has a crit and a double assist, and I only got a double assist, and the Zag is dead.
He is down.
Only he's not, because I've got unkillable.
Unkillable.
And I have a shield, and I keep Zag alive. Keep that Zag alive.
Keep that Zag alive. And at this point, Jedrin does inspire because he's made a successful crit attack.
I still can't do anything for my 4th round, so I draw another card.
On my 4th and final go, I take a final swing at Zag. I have a crit and a hammer in hand.
And I just have a crit.
So the Zag finally does die, making the score 11-10. I also then score Regal Riposte, making it 11-all.
I didn't have any cards in my hand to use the last lunge either. I didn't have any. I couldn't have a crit. I didn't have a handy hammer or a crit to lay last lunge.
So annoying at that point. Also, you weren't next to me, so you couldn't make the attack.
Yes, of course, yes, yeah. At the end, I didn't score any objectives.
I did score Dispassionate Slaughter, making it 11-12.
Yeah, cheating bastard.
I can't say it anymore. I
don't know why I didn't play Stubborn Tobacco. I had completely forgotten.
If you'd done that, I wouldn't have been able to push you away. You would have had another bite of the cherry.
Yeah.
I mean, he only had like 1 wound left. It was very likely you were going to kill him.
Yeah, or you'd have had to use up your good cards on the defence. You might not have
exactly.
Attack.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure why I didn't play it. We'll never know.
One interesting thing I found when playing this game is when you're staring at your cards and you've got 6 cards that have all hammers and shields and stuff like that, and you know all your fighters use swords, it can be quite demoralising. At least when you're making a bunch of sword attacks, you can just charge and hope that you'll roll that sword that you need. But when you know what cards you've got and you know you can't even have the hope of maybe pushing them back with a draw, you can be a bit soul-destroying to go, why do I bother charge? I'm going to charge you. Oh, look, I missed.
Well, of course, if you don't charge,
you're stuck with the cards.
Got the cards. Maybe we need a rule to discard cards, but then that would mean actually changing how Underworlds works. Because it would have to be an activation or something. So you can't really do that.
No, not unless we create, like I say, a whole new action to say redraw your cards, and you discard your 6 and draw another 6.
And actually, you do get through cards reasonably quickly.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a reason to say that you have to do the roll off with the cards, because you could manipulate them by getting rid of the ones that you don't want.
Yeah, and then you'll leave yourself with just 2 in hand. Your first attack, if that's a 3 dice attack or whatever, you can immediately draw another 6 to then maybe get the odds back in your favour a little. Yeah,
maybe. But it's an interesting point. And it's funny what sometimes, obviously, because what you want in hand changes, because often you don't want double assists, but there might be a time when you really do need one. Or in particular, if you like swords and shields, we didn't have on the same cards. No. So you like, if I throw this away now, I haven't got any defensive capability or whatever. So it's kind of
We did create a second version 2 set of the cards, which I'm going to get printed out. We'll try at some point, where we have randomised the dice faces across all the cards. I think there's only like 1 or 2 cards in there that are the same, and they're like the ones with hammers and shields and lightnings.
I can't remember the exact reason for that. I think it was because the hammer shield cards were really strong.
Yes, well, depending on your warband, if you've got cards that have the hammer and the shield on, then you may then end up using the hammer for your attack, but then you haven't got the shield for your defence. Also, conversely, if you've got a warband that uses dodges for defence but hammers for attacks, then that's great, because you can use your hammer cards for your attacks dodges.
I knew there was a combination that was, if you've got hammers and dodges.
So we randomised it a lot more. There's almost 36 unique card set combinations, which means that whilst you might be able to use some cards because you don't need the other faces on them, you are going to have other situations where you do need those other faces, and it makes it a much harder call.
Might mess with my brain a bit more, trying to work out which cards.
You can't just think, I don't need these.
It was quite easy. It was quite easy to know what to discard in our first iteration.
This does raise the question of, does having fighters with more dice or more attacks, or warbands that just generally are attacking a lot more, does it benefit them more because you're going to get through your 36 cards and then be able to shuffle them and start again?
I think it probably does, because you can fish for crits more easily.
Possibly, but I mean, you're going to be fishing for crits more with the more dice you roll anyway. I mean, generally, the more dice you roll, the more chance you've got of getting crits.
Yes,
so
that's true.
It's a question of how much that skews the result, but I guess in a dice game at least, it is still random. So your chances of rolling crits doesn't change. You just might roll more of them on average.
I suppose equally, you might end up having to get rid of crits that you didn't want to use. If you've got to roll more dice. So
exactly.
It's kind of,
or for defences, because you haven't got enough cards left, and you need to draw more, things like that.
It does cut both ways.
There's also a question mark about whether we just say, okay, at the beginning of each activation, maybe you just draw another card if you've got less than 6, just to just to keep replenishing your hand a little bit and give you a few more actions or options.
And we did discuss whether you always topped back up to 6, and that would be one way to play it. We elected to do it the way we did it. I'm not sure which way. We'd have to play more games to see.
Yeah, I think we need to play more games to basically experiment, see how that goes.
I really liked the different tactical elements it gave the game. It makes it changes the tactics completely, because often in Underworlds you're like, well, I've just got to hope that I get the sword.
Yeah. Just got to roll it and fingers crossed.
And you find yourself doing a 2 sword, 1 damage attack, particularly if you play something like Despoilers, and you just have to hope that it's... In fact, it's quite often I'm just charging to try and...
Just to hopefully get something.
I'm literally just charging just so I can score an objective normally. But you actually massively increase, or you get rid of the cards that you don't want, so your next attack will be nice and strong. Yeah. You know it is. You've got that. Well, it doesn't matter whether Murgoth misses, because Drakenar's going to come steaming in a minute with a hammer crit.
Yeah, exactly.
and so it does change how you think about the game.
And I wonder if it overly favours offensive warbands, but I don't think it does, because if you're a defensive warband, you're going to keep those crits for your defence rolls. Yeah. And when you're standing on objectives, maybe you're playing Fearsome Fortress and you want to be on those objectives, that's when you're going to keep all your crit dodges and stuff like that to just make sure you stay in place. So you also, or I definitely found myself, and I don't know if you did, second guessing what your opponent might have.
It's got that element. It's got that element of.
Do I play just a crit, or is he going to play his crit? Do I need to play a crit success, or in my case, do I play a crit and 2 successes, even though he's only rolling 1 dice?
It's got an extra element of bluffing in it, hasn't it? Bit like Moonstone or whatever. And you're trying to remember a little bit what your opponent's got through, and just trying to remember what you've got through. Is there any point in digging for more cards because there's no crit in there?
Yeah. And one thing I and it's maybe a very personal thing in this situation, but I did like the fact that if you have a bad start, if you have your first 6 or 12 cards and you don't get any crits in there, you know they're coming. They're there. They're just not there just yet.
It's not like when you're rolling dice. They may never ever arrive.
It may never happen at all, Whilst your opponent's sitting there going, oh, crit success. Oh, double crit. Oh, 3 crits.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, and you're sitting there going, oh, I need shields. Oh, there's a dodge. Oh, I need hammers. Oh, there's a sword.
2 double assists.
Exactly. At least you know in that situation, my luck is going to come round here. I'm going to start getting some of those cards that I need. And it just makes it feel less... Whilst it makes you feel a little bit more despondent when you have a handful of cards that you know you can't do anything with, it makes you feel less despondent when things aren't going your way, because you know the good times are coming. Yeah,
and conversely, like at the end when I did charge with Gurzag.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't have done, because my hand wasn't that strong.
Yeah.
And I probably, and that...
So at that point you could have just said, I'm going to wait and draw a card or something like that.
It kind of changes how you think about the game. You might do a Hail Mary with Gurzag, because why not? Because you've got a reasonable number of dice.
And he's got his rerolls and stuff,
But do you do that when you know that there's no point in the reroll's rubbish?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess if you know you've got that card where... If you've got unkillable on them and you know you've got the shield to keep them alive, then you might go, screw it, I'm going to charge just to burn through some of these rubbish cards. I'll keep that shield, and then hopefully if I need to, I'll die, I'll use the shield, I'll stay alive, and I'll draw a whole new bunch. Yeah. That does also make some of those cards maybe a bit more powerful than intended. But at the same time, whilst you can try and keep hold of those cards to make use of them, if your opponent attacks you, you've got to use cards to defend. And if you end up having to burn that card and draw another 6 and don't have that shield...
I remember in that end game, it was like, well, I could use a hammer to attack you with, but if I use that hammer, I didn't have any crits, if I use that hammer, then I can't use Unkillable.
Yes.
So I can't use that hammer.
Yeah. And again, that's something which, having the 36 more unique cards means that's not necessarily a choice you might have to make as much, because there'll be hammers and other combinations and stuff. But yeah, overall... I really enjoyed it. It was a bit confusing having 2 sets of cards to have to hold on to and keep looking back at one and then looking at the other again and trying to work out. I found I was spending half my time planning out where I was going to use my cards and then forgetting about what my objectives even were. Yeah.
It's difficult to say on one game. I definitely enjoyed it as an alternative way to play, and I think it didn't have that kind of slightly horribleness that we sometimes have, or often have, where one person's dice, naming no names, are much stronger than the other person's. And so you haven't got that. I only really won because I got loads of dice.
Yeah, at least you know you've got 36 cards. There's going to be 18 crits across the different dice faces, so you know you're not going to end up rolling no crits in the game whilst your opponent gets 20 or 30 or more.
So guys, what do you think? Would you play this way? Do you want to? I'm sure Pete can make the file available to print out the cards.
Yeah,
let us know whether you give it a try, whether you like, or whether you want to rely on the dice gods. If you want to see more of this type of video, then please do consider supporting us on Patreon. It means Pete and I can free up a little bit more time to sort of make these new extra quirky videos.
Yeah, if there's any kind of experimentations you'd like to see, we did one around exploding crits once. If there's anything else you'd like to see us try in the game and rules you'd like to see us try out, then do let us know.
Absolutely. And if you can't support us on Patreon, that's completely fine. We just love having you watching us. But if you want to get more notifications, do ring that bell so you get those. And do like and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook and all that jazz.
Yep, leave comments below. And we'll see you soon in the Weird Hollow.